My wife's gonna buckle. If my wife buckles and I buckle, then who's with my son? Who's with my son? When I am weak, you are strong. I walked back out there, grabbed my son, and I held him. I just held him. And I cried. And I was hurting. But I just held him. And he stopped. And just relaxed. And just relaxed. The minute I grabbed his wrist. It made me think, that's how I feel. The minute God goes, just relax. Just relax. So, Bryson was there for 2 weeks. And we brought him home. Identity crisis. Who are we now? All our friends have perfect babies. They have perfect babies that are rolling over. They have perfect babies that are doing well. They have perfect babies. The moms are breastfeeding and blah, blah, blah. And my wife is doing all, so we have to do a bottle because Bryson can't latch and blah, blah, blah. And life's different. Identity crisis. So who are we now? Now we're the weird parents with a kid who's different? What? Why? Why? God can't have a plan for this. God cannot have a plan for this disabled dad with a disabled kid. Identity crisis. Identity crisis. Here's what I found to be true. It's very easy in times of crisis to put the focus on us and say how this is affecting me. How I hurt. You don't know how I feel. It's about me, 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 me. Hey, if you live a life that's about you, you live a life that's all about you, it's a dangerous life. It's a hurtful life. So are we going to realize it's time? What is this about? What is this plan? What are your purposes? Contrary to popular belief, life is not about us. Trials and change in our life are not identity crises. If you know why you were created. My question is, do you know why you were created? Do you know why you were created? I've wrestled with why these things happen. And I'll share with you now that that little baby has impacted more people in 9 years than I'll impact probably my entire life. He's tough. He's a tough kid. I don't give him any room for quitting. We are walking up this hill. He's a heart problem. We are walking up this hill from the lake. And he's stopping. I said, get going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. You know why? I didn't quit. So I don't let him quit. And he is tough. He is tough. He does things with Down syndrome that most kids can't do. He impacts lives. He impacts lives. When he was 5 years old and his brother was 3 years old, Aaron came over and took a toy from him. And he just gave it to him. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I said, what are you doing? You don't just let somebody take a toy from you. You whop them on the head or something. Stand up for yourself, man. What is going on with you? And he just looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I began to think, my 5-year-old just taught me about grace. People can't take things from you that you just give to them. He wasn't needy. He wasn't needy. He just gave it up. So we have worked through this and battled through this with Bryson. And now today he's 9. Unbelievable kid. Unbelievable kid. 2 years ago I lost my job in Oregon. No, this is not another zoo story. And I was forced to move to Washington. And, not forced, but I chose to move to Washington. My dad lived in Washington. It's kind of exciting. I've never lived near my dad. And I thought that, well, this was great because now my dad and I can go hunting and we can take our kids, we can go fishing and do all these things together that I've always wanted to do with my dad. And I got up there and my dad was sick. I would go and I would visit him and I would knock on the door and he wouldn't answer the door. The blinds were always drawn. And he was sick. And he was depressed. So he just never wanted to do anything. And I went over to visit him one day and there were 4 newspapers outside of his door. And I thought, the last time this guy got out of his house, I think what's going on there. So I went home and I told my wife, I'm not worried about my dad. And she said, Dale, most people don't have to do this until they're 60, whatever. You have to go over to your dad's house. That's your dad. You have to open up the blinds. You have to open up the door. You gotta let some light in. You gotta say, Dad, quit sitting around in the dark. You gotta let some light in here. Okay? Turn on the light. You gotta get things going. You gotta freshen it up. Sure, Dad, you gotta do it. I thought, okay, well, all right. So the next day, I went to work. My grandparents called me at work. I said, hey, we're at your dad's house. He's fell down. Can you come help us get him up? My dad's a big guy. And I said, sure. I drove over. I just fell down in the living room. And I got there. And this man didn't fall over. He was at the end of his bed, passed out. He had been drinking himself to oblivion since I got married for 12 years. He told me one time, hey, the arthritis is so bad, the medication they give me, it doesn't help, so Jack and Jim help me. So I picked him up and I put him on the bed and I said, we're calling 911. And my grandma said, no. It would embarrass your dad. My dad was a police officer and EMT and whatever in the community. And I thought, you're willing to put his pride over his life. Are you kidding me? We're calling 911. We called 911. I called 911. They came and got him. They took him to the emergency room. I followed. I was sitting in this room. The doctor came in and said, here's the skinny on you. Your kidneys have shut down. Your liver doesn't work, and you're internally bleeding. I'm going to put you in ICU, and I hope you live overnight. Well, oops. Didn't see that coming. So they put him in ICU. I called my family. And he lived 18 days. He lived